this tutorial, we're going to be looking at John Mayer's I Don't Need No Doctor from the Where the Light Is Live DVD. Typical Strat sound, we start off in the first position neck pickup, although later on we're going to flip to the rear position for some of the soloing. It's played primarily with the fingers, but the pick is stowed away here for later for some of the solo stuff and the chord outs. Three basic sounds, we've got this warm overdrive, and it's also used for a lot of the chording and the solos. So we'll hear later. We have this beautiful distortion octave thing. That he pulls out in a lot of tunes on this tour. And then a typical Believe kind of solo tune. Lots of fun. Let's get into it. Measures 1 and 2 to start things off. We got going on there is open E, and then hammer on from the open G to the 1, and then the high E, and then pull off B3 to open, and then open G. That's the first part of measure 1. Cycle out a couple times. Then for the second half of measure 1, we've got our thumb sounding the G note at the 3rd fret of the low E. Then we're going to sound these two notes here. We've got the G4 and the B3. We're going to sound those, but pull off to the open G. So we're sounding two notes, but pulling off to 1. Then we have the open D. We're barring the 2nd fret GB, and then 2nd fret on the D string. And then these two G and B open, but we're going to trill on the G1. And he actually slides up to the around the 16th fret to end things off. You don't have to do this, but he does it. I'll put a little video over there so I can show you what I mean. Measure 1 slow. Measure 2 starts off exactly the same way. But when it gets to the G part, it does this. What we're doing there is low G like before. Those two notes, the G4 and the B3 sounded together. And then we're all the way up here at the 12th fret on the D12 and the G11. Sound those together. We're hitting the open high E and then coming back to that G11. So measure 2 slow. I slid into that. Sometimes he slides into it. Sometimes he does this. We're just doing the open E and the open B. You can do whatever you want, but for the most part it's this. Ending off on that G11. So measure 2 slow. And that's the intro. He does measures 1 to 4 by himself, and then measures 5 to 8 are where the band kicks in. Now measure 8 has a different ending. Instead of going like we did before, we're going to go ending on the D2, which is an E note. So measure 8, the beginning we've seen before. So to do that, we've got the low G, those two notes on the G4 and B3, pulling off to open G, open D. We're going to bar the G and B strings at the 2nd fret and pull off to the open G and then hit that last D2. And measure 8 will be kind of the example for measures 10 and 12, things like that. We're no longer going up high, that's done with, we're ending like that now. So measures 9 and 10 would sound like this. And that's the singing verse. So anytime he's singing, he's not going up high, he's just going, ending it like that. And that takes us lots of measures into the future. So we do that riff with a modified ending, and we stop that at measure 12. So going into measure 13 and 14, we have this. doing there is we're doing these two interesting chords. And so the first one is C sharp diminished minor 7 flat 5. It checks a whole bunch of boxes. I'm just going to read out the fret indicators to you. Starting on the 5th string, we have 4th fret, skip a string, 4th fret on the G, and then 5 and 3. And the rhythm we have for that first one is, so I just kind of pluck everything piano style first, and then strum down twice. Then we transition to this other chord, and I'll read that out. It's 5, 3, 5, 5, 3. And the rhythm for that one is da, da, da. So it's like a high bang, then you go da, 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 pedal on this D3. So both of them together are kind of slow. So let's measure 13 with those two chords. Measure 14 sounds like this. So we're sliding with our first finger from A1 to 3. Then we're making this chord. The chord is starting on the 5th string. We have 3, 4, open, 3. So the rhythm is hitting it twice, hitting the root note, and then twice a bit faster. Then we're doing this. So that's the exact same shape, just moved up 2 frets. We're sliding with our thumb from 3 to 5 on the low E, and then hitting on the 2 middle strings, 5 and 7. Slide from 5 to 7 on the low E, and then hit those other 2 middle strings at 7 and 9. That's how it ends off. So. So 13 and 14, let's just do them to speed and you can kind of get the idea. Measures 15 and 16 go back to the verse singing rhythm. We're always returning to that part. But 17 and 18 introduce this. And it's the same chord shape, just played at the 7th, 5th, and then 3rd, back to 5th. And that chord shape is starting on the 7th fret of the low E, we have 7, skip a string, and then on the 4th string it's 7, 9, 7, 7. And we strum it, and then we arpeggiate it. I'll just call out the string numbers. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1. And then you bring it down 2 frets, 5th fret, and we hit the high part. He hits more than one there, but you can go like E, B if you want. And there's 2 muted strums, and then 3rd fret, and then bring it up to end on the 5, like that, to speed. After that, we're back into the main singing rhythm. But when we get into measure 32, which is the end of the singing verse part, we do this slightly different ending. So the second half of measure 32 sounds like this. Just a double pull on that last bit. So we have the G, low G, that pull off, open D. We're barring the 2nd fret on the G and B, back to the open D, and then twice on those fretted notes. And what we're going to do after that is we're going to switch to our pick. We're going to click on our octave sound. Start doing that stuff. I believe it's Electro-Harmonix Microsynth he uses, a very nice vintage pedal that he uses throughout that concert. I'll just play through this middle part. That's basically it. And they're similar in that all of them start with this open E, and then 4 muted strums, followed by 2 opens, and then this high lick. And the high lick changes. The first time we go through it, it's. Second time we go through it, it's. Let's go through that first one slow. Open, 4 muted, open. Next measure is. That is 12th fret of the G string, and then pulling off from D14 to 12, and then landing on the A14. Then we do it again. Same thing, G12. We kind of bend it up a tiny bit, and then we're going to do that pull off again, D14 to 12, landing on A14. Then we do this. I'm just going to play the notes so you can kind of get them. But there's muted strums in between, and it kind of sounds like. Let me play that last one going into that little different part. So it's. Then one more time, we're back to that open. This time we end the thing off with, and then a bunch of muted strums. And into the next part. So the takeaways there are most of those licks, they're all starting on the 12th fret of the G, and they're slightly bent. And then they kind of build up into. And then sometimes you have these with strums in between. And then coming off that last one. And then you step off the effect and get back into your rhythm sound for the next part. So coming out of that change up, we're going to be doing those chords again that we had looked at in the previous measures. Just for a refresher, on the 5th string, those chords were 4th fret, skip 1, 4, 5, 3, that one. And then the one that followed was on the 5th string, 5, 3, 5, 5, 3. And we're going to be strumming these chords with our overdrive sound with our pick. And the rhythm is. Actually, the rhythm is different every single night he plays this, but you know what I mean. This is what he did on that night. You can do whatever you want, as long as it makes rhythmic sense. So that first chord with the C sharp and the bass, it's. And we immediately pivot to the second one with the 5th string, 5th fret. Yeah, so that's what he did that night. And then we go into that sliding chord, and he does this. So he slides from that A1 into the 3. And that chord shape, for refresher, was on the 5th string. It was 3, 4, open, 3. We slide into it. And then from the D4 to the B3, we do that. So 4th string, and then 2nd string, and a bit of the 3rd, and then back to 4. And then 2, 4 like that. And then we do those chords. Those chords too were the first one on the A here. We have the 5th fret, skip a string, 5, 7, 5, 5. We just hit them twice. Slide it up 2 frets. And the second one is with a muted strum in between. So, but you know, doesn't really matter. You could go. So let's look at that part slow, measures 39 and 40. Going to measure 41, we're still in the trumpet solo, but we're changing things up rhythm-wise. We're going from the pick back to our fingers. I keep mine between the 2nd and 3rd fingers. Mayer seems to keep his between the 1st and 2nd. Don't ask me how I can play and do that at the same time, but he can. Doesn't matter what you do with it, as long as you keep it handy, because you're going to need it later. When we go into this, do 4 of those, and they're pretty close to the same. I find because we're coming out of that, it's easier to hit the first low E with the pick, sequester it, and move into the slap. And that's how that sounds. So what we're doing there is we're hitting the low E, doing a rhythmic slap, open D, then we're fretting the G and B strings at the 2nd fret, and then we're just plucking those same 2 strings open. So that's the first half of measure 41. Then for the second half of measure 41, we're going to hit those 2 open strings again, the B and the G, and start our arpeggios. Like that. And the arpeggio fingering is, the first one at the 3rd fret is 3, 5, 2, 2. And then slide it up 2 frets and it's 5, 7, 4, 4. And then you start it all over again. After he does it the first time in measure 41, he starts doing a little trill. Like that, so it's like... And then going into the... So the trill part, open E, slap, open D, do that fretted 2nd fret, G and B. This time when you hit the open G and B, trill a bit on the G1. And then hit them both open again, G and the B, and start that arpeggio. 3, 5, 2, 2, 5, 7, 4, 4, and then do it all again. The first time he passes through this on that night, he actually arpeggiated it 3, 5, 2, 2 together, and open A. Like, you can do that if you want. I recommend just keeping the arpeggio the same, because it's easier to remember. And these should be staccato and muted. And I know he's using the fingers for this because you see the thumb cascading around. If he was holding the pick, you wouldn't see that action. But you can do it. You can arpeggiate it with the pick, or you can do whatever you want. It's up to you. Measures 45 and 46. We've played these chords before, but we're going to be changing the rhythm slightly, making it more jazzy because we're in the solo. So we've seen these before, as I said. That's on the 5th string. That first chord is 4, mute, 4, 5. And we're going to play it in this manner. So 2 slows and 2 fast. And then the next chord is the same rhythm. That next chord on the 5th string is 5, 3, 5, 5. That's played. And then we're ending off with an open A. It's going to lead into the next measure. So from the top, measure 45. And the next measure, the chord we start off with is starting on the 5th string, 3, 4, open, 3. And we're going to arpeggiate those bottom 2 notes and then snatch the top end of the chord. Very similar to the other rhythm. With the lead-in note from the last measure, the open A, it sounds like this. Then there's a transitional open string to get you to the 5th fret, 7th fret thing. So we've done that chord before. It's 5, mute, 5, 7, 5, 5. Just hit the low part of that, and then the top 3 strings. Slide up 2 frets, same thing, bottom, and then the top. So the whole those 2 measures slow. Measures 47 and 48 go back to the intro lick, but we're playing with the timing a tiny bit. So instead of doing the, it's pause, like that. And in the first measure, 47, there's actually an octave, low E, and then D2. So it's probably just better to follow through on the tab. It's a very, very slight change. That nice little bend in there. And the measure 48. So you got that same pause in the timing without the octave. Then we're going right to this, the 2 note, and then barred 2nd fret, G and B, open, barred again, ending with the 2 open strings at the bottom. just makes it a tiny bit different to the ear as he's going through on the solo. Measures 49 and 50 are an alternate take on this. That kind of thing. Much more jazzier version. Sounds like this. With a nice bend at the end. So that to do that, we're going to take our first finger, lay it on the 6th fret from the D string all the way down, and then our third finger is going to be on the G8. We're going to slide that up with a piano attack. So all fingers and the thumb are going to grab each string and go like that. We're going to hit the bottom of that, the 2 top strings here, and then the meat of the chord, the three notes in the middle. So far we have like that. Then we're going to descend like that. So that's we've got our third finger on the G9. We're going to go to the G8, and then we're going to go from the G8 to the G6, and we're going to alter our fingering. Instead of a 3-note chord, we're going to turn it into a 2. We're just going to be fingering the D7 and the G6, and that's how we end off that first part. So. And then we do a similar thing, but at the 5th fret here. So get ready to slide in from the 4th. We've got the D string at the 4th fret, and our third finger is on the G6. Slide into that with all 4 strings. Hit the top of it, and then the middle of the chord, and then go down to the G6. So, and then we're going to change our fingering. We're going to do this. That fingering is the pinky is on the D5, and then the third finger is on the G4 with the G2 underneath. We're going to go, that's how we end that off. So, and that bend just on the G2, bend it up, return it to regular, and then pull off to open. And then the octave E here on the D2. Measure 51 and 52, again slight changes in the intro riff. So that first one, it's kind of a nice addition, this B3. That's the only change, that last note. And then the measure after that. Going into the second part of the measure, we have the so slightly different. Both of those 2 measures slow. Boogies a bit on the rhythm during other people's solos like Geddy Lee and Rush. Kind of neat. At some point in this concert, John Mayer screams at the audience, "And on the bitch whistle, Bob Reynolds!" Bitch whistle is saxophone. Very good name for it. And it's one of my favorite parts in the song. This is measure 53, the accompaniment for the sax solo. This is one of my favorite things in this song. It's so jazzy and mellow and cool, considering the solo that's playing over it with the sax. Very, very tasty. So to do that, we're doing an E-type thing. We've got the low E, muting the A, and we've got our fingers on D9 and G7, and the bottom 2 are open. And we're going to go to start off. So we're doing a piano attack. I've got my thumb on the low E, and then I'm grabbing the D, G, and B and pulling on that. And then just the bottom part of the chord for the second part. So then we're going to go down to at the 3rd position and 5th position. So on the 3rd fret, do a G broom handle grip chord. So our thumb is on the E3, and then we've got our third finger on the D5, and then 4, 3 slashed under that. But take your pinky and put it on the B5. That's the chord we're going to start with. So, 2 like that. Slide that whole thing up to the 5th fret, and we're going to go. And we do that by lifting off the pinky on the B7, turning it into a major chord, and then putting it back. And you just repeat that. So the second, third, fourth times through that on the E part, we're going to bar the G and B at the 7th fret, and we're going to go and then go back. And sometimes it's just, you're just doing the middle of the chord and then barring the G and B, leaving it at that before repeating. Very, very cool sequence. Measures 57 and 58, minor variations. Find which one you like better and play it. Slightly different rhythm. For this kind of thing, I just play it the same way each time until you're comfortable with it, and then you can change it up on the fly like he does. Measures 59 and 60, more variation. Some weird ones there. 59. Ending off on 2 open high E's. Measure 60. This is a weird one, just follow along on the tab. Measures 61 and 62, more piano attack stuff. So we're starting off on 7, 6, 7. And what we're doing is starting off on the G6, and then G9, G8, and then 6. And then ending off on 8. And the D7 and the B7 stay the same. So the rhythm is like this. One more time. And then at the 5th fret, we're 5, 7, 5, and we just descend. Last one being a bar of all 3 strings on the 5th fret. So, and then ending off with the D5, G4, and then the D5, G2. So, before we end off with, so that's G2, hammer on from open to 1st fret, and then high E. So the whole thing's slow. Measure 63 and 64. One more time slow. Measures 65 and 66, the band drops out except for the drums, and he hits an open low E, and then transitions to the pick. And he starts off with 2 muted slide things. That's just starting down low, muting, striking the strings, sliding up to around the 10 or 12, and then back down again. You do that twice. And then he does this, starting measure 67, this tremolo chord thing, just all on the bottom 3 strings. So let's just go over those chords. The very first one is all on the G, B, and E strings, bottom three strings, 14, 15, 15, and we bend that up at first. So we're strumming the bent part, and we hit it 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we bring that back down, unbent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The next chord is a 12, 14, 12. We hit that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the bottom chord is a 11, 12, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Before coming back up to that original unbent version, 14, 15, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the last fingering is 12, 15, 15. And we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up, slide down. So let's look at that slow. Measure 69 and 70. So this is the one with the root on the 4th fret of the 5th string. Then the next chord. We slide into this one. And this is, we're pretty much strumming all 6 strings here. And then into the 5th fret. And then sliding into the 7th fret. We hit that 4 times. So 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 7th fret position. Measure 71 and 72. This time this lick is played with a pick, so it sounds a bit different. Hitting on the 2 middle open strings, no trill, none of that with the pick. Then 72. See that double. Measure 73, 75. So this is reminiscent of a lot of Mayer tunes where he fingerpicks his way into the intro, and then by the mid-song he's chording his way out before a solo. So this is that kind of thing. And this kind of strumming can be, it's going to be different every night. Do what you want. This is a nice thing to start with. And then we double up. And this features in the last 2 strums open strings as we transition. And we're into the next position at the 5th fret. And when we get to the first time he gets to the 5th position here, he does 2 slow strums and then doubles it up 16th notes. And then the next 2 strums are a slide. And he's down to the G and back up to the A again. 1, 2, 3, 4, finish things off. So let's just do those 2 bars slow. And you can do whatever you want. Subdivide that chording up any way that fits. He's going to do it different every night. Before finally ending off with the picked version of that intro lick. So we have that double twice, ending off with 4 A chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. The start of measure 76 is the lead into the solo. We've got a high gain sound now. And let's just go through the first 3 measures and we'll talk about them. So you'll notice right away that it's a lot of strum picking, meaning you're only hitting certain you're hitting all 6 strings, but you're muting on either side and dulling strings, so only the ones you want sound. So measure 76 starts off with so we have that open low E. And just a word about picking orientation. You'll see a lot of reorientation strums up and down for this. When Mayer's playing 8th notes, like these two, followed by 16th notes, he always picks the 8th notes downstroke, downstroke, and then the 16th notes are down up because you're faster, and the pick is reoriented to do its thing. Most of the important notes are struck on the down. So we have this down, 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 up, followed by down, up, and then down, muted up, and then down, up, like that. That bend is on the G12, and then we have G14, 12, and then 14, 12 on the D. But it's not played clean like that, it's played. We're strumming like mini strings on either side of these two. Not the full 6, but you know, at least a string on either side, so probably 3 in the grouping. Let's do that one more time, slow. So you heard that after the bend, it's muted, and then that's simply reorienting the pick, and it's a feel thing, a timing thing, and it just sounds great. Measure 77 and 78 slow. So right away you notice this kind of pick strumming. And it has the added kind of function of orienting the pick on the downstroke for some of the key moments of the lick. So let's look at 77. We start off with his low E, and then we're barring the 12th fret B and G, but we're going to go downstroke on the G14, and we're going to hammer on to the G13, like that. And we're going to do an upstroke, mute it, and then get into this melody, which is 14-12 twice on the D. And then we have a downstroke on the E15, timekeeping rake, which gets rid of our upstroke, gives us a downstroke on the A12. Because that's an 8th note, we have enough time to reorient our pick and do 2 downstrokes in a row. So we're going to go 15, 12 on the low E. So a lot of this is just repositioning the pick for a downstroke at key points. And like I said before in some of the rhythms, when he's got 16th notes, he's down up. When he's 8th notes, he's usually down down for the most part. Measure 78 sounds like this. So we have 2 low E's, but it's actually a low E down and then a bunch of open strings up. And then we're barring at the 14th fret G and B. We're going to 12 twice in this rhythm. So then we're going to start a series of, so that was a dip. We're going to do a phantom upstroke, and we're going to go B15, upstroke D12, and then 14-12 on the G, and then 14-12 on the D. And this is a better example of this, measures 78, this type stuff. So I'm just doing this kind of strumming thing. And that's probably a better explanation for some of the stuff that's happening. But behind the scenes, we're reorienting our pick for downstrokes where we want them to be. Measures 79 to 81. So measure 79 is similar to the one that precedes it, but these notes are different. And And it ends off with a bend at the B15. So slow. And then we're bending up on the B15. And we get into this lick, into the next measure. And then we go. So let's do that. Do 4 of those. The timing is weird because the first bend starts at the end of the last measure, 79. By the time we hit 80, we're like that. And then that little rundown is B15 pulling off to 12, and then G15 sliding into 14, pulling off to 12 on the G, landing on the D14. Except it's fast. And then we have this nice kind of off time rising 12-14 on the G, and then on the B. So slow. Maybe slower. And then the measure after that is. So that's that beautiful B14. Bend up. Take it unbent. And then we have this. And then this nice slide up from A14 to 16 that gets us in position for another lick. So let's play all that stuff slow. And there's a upstroke riff, upstroke rake in there. Measure 82 is a bunch of descending chord shapes like this. So there's 2 shapes, and we're just descending them in a certain order with some strumming and open strings and muting in between. That's why we had that nice slide in that last lick from the A14 to 16. It's to set us up for the shape. So the first chord shape is a A16 and a G14. So you can use your third finger on the top and your first finger on the bottom. And when you strum it, think of it like an octave. We're just sounding these 2 notes. Everything around is muted. And let's play it slow. Like that. So we're going to move that first one. So we're on the 16th fret of the A. Twice we hit it. Drop it down 2 frets. So now we're on the A14. Then we're going to change shapes. The new shape is going to be A12 and then G11. That's an interval for a major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. We're going to hit that twice. Slide the same shape down 2 frets. Hit an open E. Then we're going to change the shape back to the minor one, but we're going to have the bottom part on the A9 and then the G7. Slide that down 2 frets, but we're going to do the other shape. The other shape is going to be 7 on the A and 6 on the G. And then muted the strum, and then take that same shape, move it down 2, hit it once, and then we're ending off with a 3rd fret on the low E, and then 2nd fret on the D. So I believe in the tab it's 2 open E's, E, low E, and then just muted strums for the end. A neat part. Incidentally, that type of shape, the way the chords change, that's kind of related to the minor, major, major, minor, minor, major, diminished order of chord scale theory, if you're into that. Measures 83 and 84, some fast down by the nut stuff. Measure 83, slow. straightforward one more time. So what we're doing, we're bending up on the B3 here, open string, pulling off from B3 to open, bending G2 up, back to that open E, and then we're going to do this repeating lick. We kind of repeat it twice. Pull off from B3 to 0, and then G string, slide 3 to 2, pull off to the open, and then land on the D2. And that's kind of a repeating lick. But the second time we do it, we don't do the pull off. We don't go, we go. You can repeat it the same way if you want, but there's that one is just a short little staccato note, and the other one is a pull off. And to get the speed there, it's easier to use all 3 fingers. So we got our third finger doing the pull off from B3 to open, and then the next finger in line to do the slide pull off, and then your first finger landing on the D2. Measure 84 is slow. Measures 85 to 87 are those nice low riffs. And they're all slightly different. So the first pass, 85, is this. So we're doing this really nice slide from E5 to 7, and then 5 to 7 on the next string, and then 5 on the D, bending that up a bit, and then we're ending on the 7-5 on the A. So that's the first one. '86, a bit different. We kind of try to go a bit higher this time. So slow again. So we're actually hitting 3 notes on 3 different strings. Like it's kind of strange on some fret. And then the last one, very similar to 85, but we do this. So the difference in 87 is, instead of 85, it's, so in 85 you're climbing up. In 87 it's climb up, go down, come up again. So they're all very similar. Let's play all those 3 slow one last time. Measures 88 and 89. Note that we're going to be hitting a low E and then flicking to the rear position pickup for the rest of the tune. Sounds like this. Very messy, very aggressive. So we have that low E, flicks the pickup, then we have so that starts off with barring low E first. We're barring the 12th fret, D, G, and B, and we go upstroke. Then we're going to bar the 14th fret, same strings. Go back to the 12th fret, back to 14th fret, and then we go. So all together. And that leads into measure 89, which starts this low E. So the way that lick goes is low E, we're barring the G and B strings, 14th fret, and and then at the 12th fret, and we're bending it up a bit, coming up to that D14. So and then we'll repeat. This time we go D14, D12, and then we start it all over again. So those two measures slow. Measures 90, 91 are more of the same. Slight differences, don't bother learning anything different. Just repeat what you did in the previous measure twice, and that's good. Measure 92 is this crazy flurry of straight time John Mayer freakouts. It's something like that, done super hyper fast. And let's just play it slow. And I would recommend just doing your own thing here. Because he's obviously doing his own thing. Measure 93 and 94. Kind of frenzied, but you can kind of hear a melody in your head for that one. That is 2 on the open E, and then 14th fret barred at the G and B to 12. And we've done that before. Then we start this really fast 30-second note muting. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And underneath it we have this shape. That's another 2-note thing we're going to descend with. So that first shape is A14 and G12. And then 2 muted strums. And then the next shape is 12 on the A, 11 on the G. 2 muted strums, and then we get down to the 10th fret of the A, 9th of the G, and we go da, da, da. So no muting, we're just going to hit it. That's how we end it off. So slow, measure 93. Measure 94, slow is. We've got the double again. This time we have 2 muted strums. We have a B15, and then we're going to bend up on the G14, pulling off to the 12 and the G12. And then we're going to take the 14th fret barred at the D and G and pull off down all the way, slide down the neck. And then we have a E3 and then an open E. Measures 95 and 96, super fast and aggressive. A lot of open strings ringing out all over the place. Let's just run through both of those slow. So the first measure, 95, we've seen that beginning, but there's a triplet kind of thing happening in the low E. We've seen that already. But then we have this little rundown where we do some 30-second note double picks. Ending on the, so that's 14, 12 on the G, 14, and then we have this double pick on the D12, and then the A14, and then a double pick on the A12, and then all the way down here do a 3 open in the low E. Some fast strum picking there. It's kind of difficult. And then the next one is, and just a series of slides from G7 to 9. and then a slower one. It almost sounds like a bend, but he's definitely sliding up in the video. One more time, slow. Measures 97 and 98. Just do those two measures slow. We're continuing that slide from G7 to 9. And there's a little upstroke near the end there. So, continuing that slide. There's a double pick on the D9 into a slide down. And then in this A minor pentatonic space here, bending up like that. And then the next measure after that starts with the D5 twice. And we do this neat thing where our fingers are kind of near the our first finger's near the 5th position. We're just going to pull down like that, and we're going to go 3 on the low E, and then we're going to do the D2, open, and then reach up here to the G and B at the 12th fret, and slide down. So from that second measure, measures 99 to 100. Super fast and crazy, not very melodically defined, hard to reproduce. So what he's doing is it's continuation of the last measure, which was, and then sliding down from the 12th fret G and B. We're basically doing some low stuff, and then hitting notes up high, ever higher, till we get to there. So we're bending at the G11, and then the next bend is at the B14, and then the B15. We do 2 of those. And the down low notes are, we start off, let's do the first 2 slow. We're 3rd fret of the low E, and then we're hitting the D2, and then 3 on the open A, and then bending up on the G11. Except it's played ridiculous, like that. And then immediately we go back down, we hit the open E this time, and then it gets to be a bit more familiar. 3, D2, and then twice on the open A. So this time we're up to the B14, and that's very rust. It happens a bit quicker than the last one. And then after that we have 2 that are pretty much the same. That's open E, 3rd fret of the low E, and then 3 on the open A. We're bending up on the B15. And let's do those 4 bendy parts slow. I find this really hard to reproduce. You might just want to fiddle around low in the open strings and then come up and kind of hit those bends, or, you know, by all means if you want to try and nail what he did. So again, it's played super fast. And then we go into this crazy strumming thing. This neat little chord slide, and we're strumming 10 times, 2 groups of 5. So that shape is G12, mute the B, and then E12, also mute the D. Mute everything but those 2 strings. And we do this. So quick, one quick up, down, and then 3 slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the first group. Then we're going to slide it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2 groups of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slow again. And to speed, it's like, and that comes at the tail end of the. Measures 101 and 102. Because we were fingering that G14 and E14, we're just bending up the G14 while sounding that E14 as well. So coming off that, it's a very nice transition. So let's just play through that whole thing slow and check out the tab. That's a nice inclusion, this. And that's just on the D12 and G11. Hit that 6 times to end it off. Low E, and then start the bend again. And this leads into the next measure. Let's just play through those 2 slow again. Measures 103 and 104. So we've started off with a previously bent note. That, so measure 103 starts off with that pre-bent, so I'll just come down off of that. And there's muted strums. And then we have this. That shape is barring our first finger across the 12th fret, bottom 3 strings, with our 3rd finger on the B15. And we hit the 2 high notes, 2 high strings, and then go back to the G12, and then hit those 2 top notes again. So far we have. And then we start off on this. And that chord shape is barring 3rd finger on the 15th fret on the bottom 2 strings here, and then G14. And the strumming pattern is down, down, muted up, down, muted up, and then start over again. So it's like that, and we'll repeat it. Ending off the measure like that. It's played quite fast. That altogether slow. Measures 105 and 106. That's starting off with this nice little shape we've got going and have been working with. We've got our first finger on the G12, and then our 3rd finger is barring the 15th fret on the B and the E strings. And our 2nd finger is occasionally going to come down on the G14. So the first part of that measure sounds like this. And what we're doing there is we're just hitting the G12, and then we're making this little 3-note chord. We've got our G14, and then barring the 15th fret on the next 2 strings, we're going to hit that. We're going to hit it again. Then we're going to bend up on that G14, and then hit it unbent. So then we're going to come back down to the G12, and then 14-12 on the D, and then we're going to start it all over again. So that first part slow. And then we go to the G12 again, and then we're just going to do this to end off the measure. So the first pass we're bending and stuff. The second pass with that chord, we're just hitting it. 2 muted strums, 1 more stab, and then the G12 with a slight bend on it, ending off on the 14, 12 on the D. So let's do that second part slow. So the whole measure slow. Continuing into measure 106, that's the... So we've got the G12 we start off with, 2 strums, muted, and then we've got that chord again, and then just going back to the 12, 2 muted strums, and then back to the chord, back to the 12 with a bit of bend, and you just kind of repeat that to the end. And when you get to the end, it's 12, and then the chord, and then 2 muted strum. So we end that off. Let's do that whole thing slow, 106. And then the speed is like... Measure 107 and 108. So we've got that chord again, 14 on the G, 15 on the bottom too. And we're going to bend up that G14, hit it unbent, all 3 strings, back to the single note G12, back to the chord, back to the single G12, and then 14, 12 on the D, and then 12 on the G, and then back to the D14. So that's the first part. And then with this chord, 4 notes, we've got the D14, G12, and then 15 on the bottom 2. We're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That gets us out of the first measure. After that, we're going to keep on that chord. And then we're going to go into just a bar on the 12th fret D all the way down. Hit the D, G, and B strings, and then 14th fret, same thing, D, B, and G. Muted strum to end it off. So that measure is... And we're going into a melodic part that's a bit easier to remember. So that measures 109 and 110. We're getting that nice descending harmony thing he does with Robbie McIntosh. So we're bending up on the B14, hitting it unbent, then the B12, and then 14, 12 on the G. And we repeat that, and then we go, so it's 2 of these, and then D14, and then 2 on the D12, and that's the first measure. A very little note, when he does pause on that G12, he throws in a little muted chuck in there every time. But you don't have to do that, it's a feel thing. If you feel it, do it. If you don't worry about it. After that we have that beautiful descending pentatonic minor blues. Coming up on the G12 again. And I land on my second finger so we can start the whole lick again with the third finger. So that is, same as before on the B14, bend it up, hit it unbent, 12, 14, 12 on the next string. And we have and that's 14, 12 on the B, 14, 12 on the G, 14, 12 on the D, 14, 13, 12 on the A, 15, 12 on the low E, coming up on the G12. That flat 5 in the minor blues scale. Very evil. Measures 111 and 112. repeating that motif. You go to do it again, but bail out right there. So it's... Then we do this different type of descending lick a bit early, which is kind of neat. And that's G14 bent up. Hit the high E at the 12th fret, and then 15, 12 on the B, all picked, down, up, like that. Then we have 15, 14 on the G, and then pulling off to the G12, and then ending on the 14, 12 on the D. That's that measure. So all together slow. And then the next measure after that is repeating the motif with a couple changes and double hits on the G12. So the first pass through, we hit that twice, and then we do it again. And we end off on a double hit on the G12 as well. Previously we went double on the D12. Like that, so small differences. Now it's probably a good time to talk about what Robbie McIntosh is doing during this part. As Mayer is playing that, McIntosh is playing something similar but one string up, starting on the G14, G12. Like that, or... And the rundown is something like that, where we're just descending blues scale, and then we get to this part where we're just going to bar the 14th fret, the two middle strings, and then go to the 12th fret, two middle strings, and bend it up a tiny bit. (113) and 114. So we've done that first part again. Let's look at that second measure. So that's just that run. Let's just start it at that part. We bend up on that 14, hit it unbent, and then the run actually starts on that B12, and we just start B12, and then start just two notes on the 14, 12 on the next one, 14, 12 on the next one, 14, 13, 12, 15 on the low E, and then we do that, barring the two middle strings at the 14th, and then going to the two middle strings at the 12th. So slow, let's just do that second one slow. And Robbie McIntosh, this is not on the tab, does something cool there. He actually goes... So that one is 15-12 on the high E, and then 15-12 on the B, and then 15-14, pulling off to 12 on the G, landing on the 14 on the D, and then barring the 14th fret on the G and B, and then ending off on the 12th fret on those two strings. It's kind of a... It's deep in the mix. It's very hard at that point, but they're both doing that run together. It's kind of neat. Sometimes they both do it in unison. Sometimes Mayer goes first and then Robbie goes, and then sometimes they both go and they play something wacky, completely different. Measures 115 to 116. We're at the end now. And we've seen that before. The very last measure there, 116. We're on the D14. D12, bend it up a bit, and then the very last measure, measure 117, we're fretting the D14, muting the A and the G string. We're going to do an upstroke on all the open strings plus the one fretted D14 before delving into some improv down here. And at that point, the song is over. At this point in the song, he's improvising freely. You should do your own thing here. He does do a couple things, though, that I would try to throw in, and one of them is this. And just out of that chord, that reverse rake. That's open B, second fret, pull off to the open B, and then park yourself on that B3 and let it hang there. It generates tension, and I like it. Then he does a bunch of open-ended stuff. That kind of, that kind of stuff. automatic pilot stuff. He does settle in on this. And that is the blues scale, and he's kind of accenting the flat 5. So the blues scale is the pentatonic, minor pentatonic with 2 extra notes. Flat 5, flat 5. So that's it. He's just doing that, but and after that, if you get it going fast, it blurs. You're kind of pulling it in instead of everything. And after that, you can do your own thing using some of the motifs that he's had. Ending with an E chord at the end. Open, 2, 1, all strings. So that is it. Song's over. There was way more meat on this tune than I thought at first. I think partly because a lot of people don't look at that stuff that's played during the horn sections, and that's kind of cool. It was a pleasure to learn some of that stuff. Hope you enjoyed the video, and until the next one, thanks for watching.